About 100,000 years ago, this part of Florida was submerged underwater. And this is actually limestone, not coral. Now, basically, when you see the limestone that's very striated, sedimentary, and dense, these pieces of rock came from Florida City. That part of, actually, Florida, about 100,000 years ago, was a beach. That's why you see striations. And this part of Florida, 100,000 years ago, actually was more submerged underwater. That's why you see the rock over here, very rough, porous looking, had less current, so it basically got more hollow. Now, the person who built this park, his name was Edward Leeds Scotland, born in Latvia in 1887. He came to America in 1911 and came to South Florida in 1921. Then in 1921 began his first park in Florida City. That one began in 1921 and finished in 1931. Then in 1936, he takes it apart, moves it over here, and makes it larger than the first one. So any of the rock pieces, the limestone pieces, that it's dense and sedimentary, those limestone rocks came from Florida City. And the limestone, the very rough, porous look at this one over here, it came from this property itself. So walking around, you can tell it came from Florida City and what excavated, what you guys see from here. Now these are edge reading chairs. Place these 3 chairs along the sun's path. Sat in this chair over here in the mornings when the sun rises in the east. Sat in this chair in the afternoon when the sun's above, up ahead. And in that chair in the evening where the sun's setting towards the west. So wherever we sat, the sun was always over his shoulder to read books or magazines. The table behind me is called the Florida table. We took a very large slab of rock and carved it out to the shape of Florida. The bowl of water represents Lake Okeechobee.
That's awesome.
We looked through the first crossbars placed over here. Lying these crossbars, the larger ones up there, at nighttime you will be able to see the Polaris Star, also known as a North Star. So in the winter solstice, Polaris, the North Star, is in the center of this quadrant over here, top right quadrant. The beginning of the spring equinox, the center of the top left. Beginning of the summer solstice, the bottom left, and fall equinox, bottom right. So every 90 days, the star will shift approximately 90 degrees. It moves about 1.005 degrees every single day. It's a very accurate celestial calendar. The large obelisk, that one weighs, they told me, about 20 tons. And he got up around 1940. It's one piece, believe it or not. So we have the first quarter moon over here. We have the full moon. And we have the second quarter moon. Both the quarter moons weigh about 18 tons. The full moon, about 23 tons. Apparently, Egyptians might call this symbol the horn of Isis. Pagans would call it the triple goddess, being maiden, mother, and crone.
Okay, this is the sundial.
Yeah, no sun, huh? Since my thumb is the same size as the metal piece to cast a shadow, which I call the gnomon, I'll use my thumb and count across by 5. 10 a.m. starts over here. Where my thumb's at. It's to be 10, 10:05, 10:10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. So from here to here, it's half an hour. But that's for today. In the beginning of the winter solstice, December 22nd this year, December 22nd, 10 a.m., the shadow was in the top center. And 10:30 was the top center as well. So go down for today, 10 and 10:30. By the spring equinox, the shadow for 10 is going to be right over here. By summer solstice, the shadow for 10 is going to be down here in the bottom center. By fall equinox, the shadow for 10 is going to be over here. So we have winter opposite of summer and spring opposite of fall. So what you're looking at here is our planet wobbling itself. So our best guess of how he created this type of sundial is simple observation. Came out with a hammer, chisel, a watch every single day for a year, and this is what he followed. This type of sundial, also I've been told by quite a few people who study sundials, is one of a kind. No one else on the planet has anything similar to Ed's sundial. Should be around 9:40, 9:45-ish.
Yep.
Is Ed's throne room. He told all visitors that he firmly believed that every man should be king of his castle. And every man should have a throne room inside his castle. I'll love to be every man right about now. Reference and all that stuff. Over here, we have the king's throne, we have the queen's, and for prince or princess. Oh, it's a fresh water well. Believe it or not, the Biscayne Aquifer passes right under your feet as we speak. It goes right through the rock itself. The rock is permeable. Over here, we have the 9-ton gate. Now this big rock was actually Ed's main attraction. And slowly they put it does a little hole with the new gear system. Now this is Ed's tool shed, and this is where he stored his tools. But he had two tool sheds. This one was for his heavy tools. He had a wooden one in the backyard, specifically for his experiments. Unfortunately, it was destroyed in 1972 in a fire, and what was left over they tried to bring out, but this one was left over. So I was told he had his whole shack full of capacitors, relays, transformers, condensers, different spun homemade capacitors. He did a lot of experiments out there. Unfortunately, gone. This is the heaviest hoist he owned. I've talked to many stonemasons and many engineers. They told me an estimate between 10 to 12 tons, which is a lot. But outside we got 24 tons, we got 30 tons, we got 28 tons. So they said probably in tandem, together with the rest of the pulleys, he could probably pull it off. Over here we have a generator that Ed himself made out of junk car parts. To be precise, is Ed's version of an alternate current generator. He said he was a Tesla fan and felt Tesla work. Unfortunately, Ed took it apart himself, but Ed did write his own pamphlets, which we have for sale inside. In one of his pamphlets called Magnetism, he's stating that this was his perpetual motion generator. He claims to create what he calls a neutral magnet. He said this neutral magnet repelled both north and south at the same time, making it perpetual. It's pretty cool. Unfortunately, it was taken apart before I came. Never saw it myself. Questions? Now, many of the theories in the park lie either between simple leverage or crazy levitation. I prefer crazy levitation because it adds to the imagination. Now, with the rumors I've heard and I put together, quite a few of us did, we suspect he used something which they called acoustic levitation, because even Tesla was working on that as well. Within quantum physics, they dictate everything in the universe in a particle level is vibrating. Specifically, if you find the correct acoustics or frequencies for whatever's vibrating, you can make it vibrate faster, creating a lift or pull up. Now, I went on the internet and I found a gentleman named John Hutchison, and he actually can do acoustic levitation. So it's actually science facts, not fiction, that it's possible. Now, how large the rocks, it's a different story. These are lighter objects.
And this is upstairs. And this was his living quarters. Here is where the guy quarried all the stones out of. Right in this area here. Now this is a piece of coral rock. The same kind of rock that was used in the Coral Castle. And like I told you before, anytime you start quarrying rock, it's a lot softer when it's in the ground than when you let it sit outside for a few years. But it's basically, coral rock is basically just limestone. And it's very easy to cut into. You can almost get a butter knife and cut into it. But that's basically limestone. Same kind of coral rock they used at the Coral Castle.